この作品は一回輪っかを外してそれをまたつなぎ合わせるっていう行為を繰り返していくことなんですけど、まだコロナで外に出れない人もたくさんいるでしょうし、なので人と人がやっぱりつながっているんだなってことを認識するっていうことが重要だと思っていて、そういうことが多分画面上だったりとか世界中でそういうふうに見て思ってもらえればいいのかなと思いますけどね。
Hello, everyone. I'm Mayor MacArthur, Art and Cultural Director at Japan House Los Angeles. Today, we're very excited to announce the opening of our new summer exhibition, Reconnecting, A Vision of Unity by Kengo Kito. The exhibition will open tomorrow, June 16th, at Japan House Los Angeles, and at our first ever offsite installation at Westfield Century City. Kito-san is joining us today from Japan, but before we meet him, I'd like to introduce President of Japan House Los Angeles, Yuko Kaifu, for a few words of welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to our opening program of the new exhibition, Reconnecting, A Vision of Unity by Kengo Kito. As you may know, the exhibition uses more than 2,000 hula hoops, which are connected and reconnected to form an immense art installation. During the pandemic, all of us have been spending long hours at home, isolated from our family, friends, and the community. Now in California, it is time for us to finally get reconnected with one another. Mr. Kito's installation symbolizes the joy and celebration of getting reconnected. Of course, everyone was yearning for so much. The hula hoops of different colors forming a huge work of art also means unity in diversity, which is part of the vision of Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Another unique aspect of this exhibition is that the installation was created remotely by Kengo Kito. Originally, we were hoping to invite him to LA to work on this huge project. Because of the pandemic, overseas travel became such a huge challenge that he decided to do it remotely by giving directions to our curatorial and exhibition staff. As a matter of fact, they spent a total of 20 hours or more over 2 weeks with Mr. Kito by Zoom, who gave them instructions. And as a result, they fostered warm bonding between him and our staff, creating a strong sense of connection across the Pacific, although they never met in person. Actually, the work started early in the morning here in Los Angeles and late at night in Japan. So really appreciate Mr. Kito's dedication to this art project. And it was done beautifully well. I find the exhibition fascinating, innovative, and uplifting. I hope all of you will have a chance to visit our gallery to immerse yourself in the world of Kengo Kito during the summer. Now I'd like to play a message from Consul General of Japan, Mr. Akira Muto, who will share some words about this exhibition.
Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to join you for tonight's special opening event for Reconnecting, A Vision of Unity by Kengo Kito at Japan House, Los Angeles. We are very excited about the exhibition, which will open to the public tomorrow. We are fortunate to have Mr. Kito join us today virtually, and I look forward to his talk. The year 2020 and the first half of 2021 has been a challenging time for all as we see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think back to how we all work together to stay safe and to overcome the pandemic. Japan is currently preparing for the Olympic and Paralympic Games Tokyo 2020, placing the highest priority on delivering safe and security games for all. One of the key concepts of the game is unity in diversity. The games will bring together people of different cultures and countries, all working towards the same goal. One thing that the pandemic taught us is that we can overcome a great crisis only by connecting together. While Tokyo 2020 will be different from what we have seen in the past, Japan is doing its best. My sincere wish is that the Games inspires hope for all people over the world. Here in Los Angeles, diversity is what makes the city and its people great. How fitting that Mr. Kengo Kito's first exhibition, which symbolizes the interconnectedness of humanity will be held in Los Angeles. As we come out of the pandemic and isolation, now it is truly the time to work towards reconnecting with others to establish a vision of unity. Japan House LA's gallery has reopened, and I hope you will all visit to see Mr. Kengo Kito's exhibition and to be a part of that vision of unity. Thank you and have a great evening.
I wish to thank Consul General Muto so much for his very warm, supportive messages. So now I'd like to turn it back to Mayor, who is going to introduce our very special guest, Mr. Kengo Kito. Mayor, back to you. Take it away.
Thank you, Yuko. Before we meet our special guest, I have some quick housekeeping announcements. Here's the main information you need to know: that the audience has been muted and videos have been turned off, but the chat function has been enabled. So if you'd like to follow that, please go ahead. But if you have questions for Kito-san as part of the Q&A at the end of the interview, please use the Q&A tool rather than the chat tool to send us questions to him. And we'll do our best to select as many questions as we can. And we'll be recording this webinar, and it will be stored on our website at a later date in an edited version. So please check out japanhousela.com if you would like to watch it again. Now, before we start our interview with Kito-san, I'd like to share a video we've been working hard to create to introduce his work as an artist and some of the concepts behind his installation at Japan House Los Angeles.
Kengo Kito is one of Japan's most innovative artists and is best known for repurposing everyday objects into sculptures and installations. His work has been shown widely in Japan and overseas. The exhibition at Japan House Los Angeles is his first hula hoop installation in the United States.
この作品はレディメイドのものを使ってその組み合わせによって作品化するっていうことが多いですよね。絵画を勉強してきたので、どうしても絵画から派生したような作品になっていくことが多いですね。表面だけが出てくるようなもの、世界が断絶してつながっていたりだったりとか、例えば布を使ったりするときは全く例えばチェックの柄と例えばストライプだったりとか全く関係ない柄みたいなものが壁一面広がっていってる作品になったりとか、映像を鏡に反射させて、要するに映像ってものの内容っていうよりは映像の中の色、花畑を撮ったお花っていうものの色だけを抽出するような形で手鏡にそれを照射して、その反射によって作品を作ったりとかしますね。フラフープの作品は豊田市美術館で初めて発表したんです。美術館がすごく大きな美術館で、与えられたスペースっていうのもすごく大きな空間だったんですよね。なぜかその時空間を埋めなければいけないと勝手に思い込んでしまったんですね。少し前にフラフープの素材をいじってたんですよね。これフラフープって丸いんだけど、ジョイントを外すと線になるなと。その円が線になっていくっていうことに気づいたんですよね。その時にこれをつなぎ合わせていったらもしかしたら空間が埋まるのではないかと。どんな場所でも変容させるっていうか、空間ありきの作品、少し非日常化するというか、普段とは違う空間に変える。フラフープの作品っていうのは場所によっても例えば高さ、横幅、奥行きによって全然見え方が違うんですよね。なぜかで、当然人は移動して見るからなんですけど、一点から見るのではなくて下方向から見る。最近フラフープの作品の自分の中でなんでこれを作ったのかなと、もちろんいろんな理由はあるんだけど、その色っていうものに着目した時に、例えば車で移動した時に赤い看板だけが連なって見えてくるとか、青だけが見えてきたりとか、逆に青と赤が連なって見えてきたりとか、なんかそういうちょっと感覚があって、その移動するっていうこととその色だけを抽出して普段の日常の風景なんかな、それがつながっていくような感覚っていうのは少しあるんですよ。作品がコロナによって変わるってことはなくて、でも人に会う機会はやっぱり減ったので、それはねちょっと寂しかったのかと思うし、やっぱりそういう刺激がなくなってしまうのはきついと思ったりしましたけどね。やっぱり僕が作ったものに関しては やっぱり僕の感覚で当然作ってるし考えで作ってますけど、でも見る側っていうのはやっぱり状況によって見方が変わるので、アートってそういうもんだと思うんですよね。僕先は一回輪っかを外してそれをまたつなぎ合わせるっていう行為を繰り返していくことなんですけど、やっぱりコロナ禍でなおかつもう一度人々がもう集まったりとか、そういうのを見ることによってみんながもう一回何か人と人がやっぱりつながっているんだなってことを認識するっていうことが重要だと思っていて、僕の先もそういうような形で人々を再度つなげるようなものになればいいなと思ってます。
In Kito's works, the theme of connection is often central. His uplifting work with hula hoops is particularly resonant at a time when we are all looking forward to reconnecting with each other and the world.
We hope you enjoyed the video and it gives you a good sense of Kito-san's work. Now it's my great pleasure to welcome Kengo Kito, who's joining us today from Japan. Welcome to both of you, Kito-san and David. We had really hoped to be welcoming Kito-san here in person in Los Angeles, but because of travel restrictions this summer, we've all had to learn how to connect with each other and work together in new ways. Kito-san, on behalf of everyone at Japan House, I'd like to thank you for being like the hula hoops themselves at every moment of the exhibition planning, very flexible and full of positive energy.
こちらこそ本当にね、いない中大変だったと思いますけど、搬入していただいてありがとうございます。
Thank you so much. I know it was difficult not having me there, but I really appreciate the installation going so smoothly.
Yeah, we're very thrilled to have it at Japan House LA and at Westfield Century City. It looks spectacular and we would love for you to see it.
ありがとうございます。Thank you so much.
So today it's my great honor to be asking you some questions about your work. And then after my questions, we'll take some questions from our audience. So よろしくお願いします。
お願いします。
So my first question is, you studied oil painting and other art at Nagoya University of Fine Arts and Music. And we saw some of your paintings in the video. They're beautiful abstract works with bold lines and rich colors. Are you more comfortable in the two-dimensional world of painting or in the three-dimensional world of installations?
いや、もともとは、でも実際は海外よりは先に他のメディアをやったんですよね。大学は絵画を専攻しましたけど、でも大学入った瞬間にも絵を描くのをやめようかなと思っていたんで、最初は本当に写真を撮ったりとか、オブジェを作ったりとか、そういうことから実は大学時代始まったんですよね、名古屋の時代は。でそこから大学の4年生ぐらいから、やっぱり絵を描こうと思ったことが、今のフラフープにつながっていくんですけど、最初はもう本当に 3D とかの方が先だったんですよね。
So originally, I actually did more installation type work before I did the painting. I did major in oil painting, but I was kind of focused more on photography and creating three-dimensional objects. And then in my fourth year in college, I started painting. And that was 3D was sort of originally what I was interested in as well.
So Kito-san, in your paintings and in your hula hoop installations, the line and circles and colors are very important elements. How is it similar and how is it different working with these elements, the lines, the circles, and the colors in 2D in painting versus 3D in installations? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
そうですね。もちろん当然違いがあって、やっぱり 3D の場合はそこに当然空間が実際として空間があるというか、例えば線と線の間、線をつないでいって円を外して線になっていくんですけど、それをつないでまたいくんですが、その時やっぱり当然そこの空間もあるし、でフラフープが面白いのはそのチューブの中にも全部空間があるわけですよね。表面はもちろんチューブなんだけど、中にも空間があって、なおかつその空間の中にもまた空間があるっていう、いくつか入れ子状になってると思うんですけど、それが全く多分絵画とは違うっていうか、絵画はもちろんイリュージョンとしての空間は作ってますけど、それは、絵画のやりたいことを3D でやってるわけで、もちろん少し似てはいるけど、やっぱりちょっと少しだけ感覚がちょっとずれてくるっていうか、違うは当然違いますね。
So of course there's many major differences, but in 3D it's really about sort of using that space. And so I take these circle hula hoops and turn them into lines, and then the lines are connected to become something greater. And even in the tube of the hula hoop, there's actually space within there as well. So it's kind of this space within space, which I think is really fascinating. And the two-dimensional paintings are more of an illusion, but I'm also not really trying to take what I do in 2D and turning it into 3D necessarily either. They're completely separate from each other, I would say.
もちろんその絵画と 3D とのフラフープのインスタレーションの関係性は当然ありますけどね。まあもともとやっぱりさっきもちょっと言いましたけど、絵画をやっぱりやり始めなければフラフープの作品を作ることは多分なかったと思うんですよね。やっぱその絵画ってものに取り組んだ結果、フラフープの作品に行き着いたというか、変化していったっていうのはありますね。その相互関係によって作品が今でも続いているという感じですかね。
So, and of course, the two are related, but if I hadn't started painting, then I don't think I would have discovered the hula hoop art that I create now. And so they continue to be related to each other and sort of evolve together.
I'm going to ask you a quick question about the discovery of the hula hoop in your art. I know that you started using them at Toyota Shibujitsukan when you needed to fill some large spaces. What made you open up a hula hoop for the first time? What were you doing? Why did you decide to open a hula hoop up and make it into a line? Can you tell me a little bit about that idea, the first time you opened up a hula hoop?
いや、もともとそのフラフープの作品はあったんですけど、それは普通に縦につなげていっただけで円として使ってたんですよね。でもそれを次なんか単純に大きなスペースでやらなきゃいけないっていうようなことになった時に、お金もそんなになかったし、何かこう埋めなきゃ、さっきすぐビデオでも話しましたけど、やっぱ埋めなければいけないっていう、なぜかそういう強迫観念みたいなものが突然出てきて、絵画も結局その前でやっていた絵画も結構画面をどんどん埋めていくような作業だったのか、だからかもしれませんけど、それによってなんかそのいじってた時に、これって線なんだってことで、ある時ピンを外した時に気づくんですよね。ピンをでもこれって当然次のフラフープにつなげられるって、ふとガレージでやってたんですけど、自宅の思った瞬間があって。これでいけるなって確かに思った。なぜそれを外したのかちょっと覚えてないんですけど、でもなんかそれに、ある時気づいたって、本当にただ気づいたって感じなんですよね。
I had already kind of been working with hula hoops. I was connecting them vertically as the whole hula hoops. But at the Toyota Museum, I knew that I needed to fill this big space and I didn't have a lot of money. And I felt this pressure that I really needed to fill the entire three-dimensional space. And I'd kind of been doing similar things in the painting. I just kept adding circles and lines. And so I sort of attempted the same thing in a way. And I just started connecting these hula hoops. It was originally in the garage at home. And I can't actually remember the moment that I first disconnected a hula hoop. I'm not sure why that came about, but I just noticed that that could be done. And that was sort of the beginning.
And then the circle became a line. This is a big theme in our exhibition at Japan House, how the line, when you open up a hula hoop, the circle becomes a line. And then when you close the hula hoop, the line becomes a circle. And the line of the plastic of the hula hoop, it frames space. And inside the hula hoop, there's more space. And so this relationship between the circle and the line and space is a really key part of your installation. And we find that so interesting. And we are also fascinated by the idea of space in this exhibition, how the space is full of hula hoops, which themselves are full of space. So you've talked a little bit about space and filling space, but a lot of your paintings I've noticed also have titles that relate to space and the universe. You have a series of paintings called Cosmic Dust, and one large, amazing work called Interstellar, and then another group of paintings, Cartwheel Galaxy. And you've talked a lot about connecting hula hoops end to end infinitely. I was wondering, when you create your art, is the universe and our place in the universe, is that in your mind when you're creating your work?
そうですね。僕自身作ってる時に宇宙のことを考えて、意識的に考えてるってことはあんまりないかもしれないし、なんていうのかな、もちろん無意識で何かあるのかもしれないけど、ただそのタイトルの付け方っていうことで言うと、 作品ができた後に僕必ずタイトルをつけるんですよね。作品を作る前にタイトルはつけないんですよね。だからできた時にそれが何なのかって、要するに何か見立てるというか、何かその例えばコズミックダストにっていうか、宇宙の塵のように見立てたように見えるっていうことが多分重要で、インターステラーと当然僕ら当然インターステラーその宇宙の星と星の間なんて見ることはできないんだけど、でも何かそんなような風に見立てて結果タイトルをつけてるっていうのが感じですね。
In terms of the idea of the universe, I don't think about that consciously while I'm creating the art. Maybe there is kind of a subconscious aspect to that, but I title my pieces after I finish them. I never title them before. And so it kind of depends on what I end up with it. So that was the same with Cosmic Dust and with Interstellar. It's like you can't see between two stars, but maybe you can kind of feel that through my art.
So, Kito-san, you started working with hula hoops in 2005, as you explained in the video we showed. And that was at the Toyota Shibijutsukan, where you filled and dominated this huge empty space. Now it's been 15 years, more than 15 years since then, and you've created many hula hoop installations, both indoors and outdoors, including here in Los Angeles, remotely. We're going to show everybody a short video of our new Japan House LA installation. And while we watch the video, please tell us a little bit about how it is to work with these hula hoops and what it is that you enjoy most about working with the hula hoops. What's most interesting to you?
最初にね、作った時は、2005年作った時はもうこれ1回で終わりだと思って作ったんですよね。ただそれがもう15年本当に続けて作るとは思ってなくて、やっぱりやってる面白さってのは、例えばこの場所、いろんな場所でできるってこと、可能性について、やっぱりその後考えたことがもう一番面白くて、やはり例えば今回のこの場所もそうですし、長細い場所だったりとか、今回 LA で初めて屋外で展示をしてみたりとか、やっぱりその新しい場所で見るものが全く違うものなんて、同じ形態なんだけど、全くその違うように見えてくる。何かちょっと生物のように見えたりとか、下手したらなんか空間を本当にどんどん締めていくような、なんかちょっと、ね、窮屈なものに見えたりとか、なんかそこがすごく自分にとっては発見になるというか、やってることは同じなんだけど全然違うものになっていくっていうのが、やっぱずっとやってきてる面白さかなと思いますね。
So first, when I did this in 2005, I thought it was just going to be a one-off sort of art installation. But now 15 years later and all of the installations, the most fun part for me is working with different types of spaces, just like the long and narrow space in Japan House or the outdoor space, which is the first time that I've done an outdoor exhibition. And depending on where you are, it might look like an animal or it might feel even claustrophobic, the way it sort of takes over a space. And so the difference of how it feels and how it looks depending on where you are is always a really fascinating aspect of creating these exhibits for me.
We're looking forward to everybody watching today being able to come into the gallery and experience that feeling of walking through all of this color and looking at all of the beautiful light lines. We've talked several times in the last few months, and a word that you used the other day really struck me. It's the word fuyukan. And it's the feeling of, and I'm going to translate it myself because it's the feeling of floating, the sensation of floating. And I think the hula hoops they look like they're floating in space. And also when you look at them, you kind of feel like you're floating in space. It's very uplifting to be in that space with this installation.
ぜひ見てください。
So let me just ask you one more question related to Fuyukan. When you are working with the hula hoops, do you feel like you're floating as well?
そうですね。でもやっぱりどんどんだから不思議なもので、1個じゃあまり感じないんですけど、いっぱいなんかついた時に感じるんですよね。これまた面白いなと思っていて、物量が多くて重量が多い方が何か浮遊感を感じているっていうのはありますよね。
The interesting thing is it's just having a couple of them doesn't feel very light or, fuyukan like we're saying here. But when there's many hula hoops filling a space is when it actually feels, when I feel much lighter, even though the weight of the art piece is much heavier.
So we've talked about your hula hoops in relation to connecting. Obviously, you open up a hula hoop, you connect one hula hoop to another hula hoop and connect that one to another. So there's a whole sense of the connection, the physical connection of the hula hoops. It's just wonderful to be able to have this exhibition at Japan House LA at a time when we are literally just starting to reconnect socially with our communities. Has the pandemic, the whole experience of the pandemic, affected your relationship with the art you're creating and how you show it to your audience? You talked a little bit about that in the video, but I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more, especially having finished this installation here with us remotely.
そうですね、まあ、作品が変わったとはあんまり思ってないんですけど、やっぱりその見る側だったりとか、確かにその、なんていうのかな、やっぱり今までは少し、あんまりものじゃないというか映像だったりとか、まあ、それで今ではある、いろんなこう、なんていうのかな、そのいわゆる物理的なものではないようなものももちろん面白かったんだけど、なんかよりなんかこう、いわゆる物質的なものを結構みんな欲してるのかなというのは思ったり、まあ、単純に彫刻的なものだったりとか、絵画とかいうようなものを何か、まあ、自分自身も結構そうだし、結構見る側も今なんかそういうものを欲してる感じはちょっとするというか、あとは体感したいとか、何か少しちょっとなんか、まあ日本はなのかもしれないけど、なんか少しそういう感じはしますけどね。
So my art hasn't necessarily changed, or the way that I create it hasn't changed. But up until now, there were a number of pieces that I created that weren't so physical or tangible. Now I think everyone really wants that physical sense of art. So things like sculpture and painting feel very resonant with audiences now and gallery goers. And so it feels like in Japan, especially in particular, people really want to experience the artwork directly in that way.
Yeah, we've definitely all missed going to galleries over the last few months and year. So we've been working for months together on this installation. Our team has been working hard to learn from you how to create these installations without you. What was the biggest challenge about planning and directing a multi-part installation? We have the main gallery of Japan House LA. We have smaller installations in the entranceway. And then we have this offsite installation. In total, we've used over 3,000 hula hoops. What was the main challenge for you directing this set of installations remotely from Japan?
いや、もちろんリモートで搬入っていうのは人生初なので、まずその時点でかなり大丈夫かなともちろん思いましたし、あとやっぱりその今回複雑な、ちょっとまあメインギャラリーは特にそうなんですけど、複雑なこうちょっと構造をしているので、普段はあんまりこう通路をこう複数作ったりってことはあんまりしないですね。てかまあ作ったのはほぼ初めてか、まあ一方通行の通路はありますけど、こういうふうに周遊するような通路を作ったことはないので、まずそこのシェイプというか、まあ最終的にこのエッジの部分が重要になってくるので、通路の。そこがどうきれいに見えるのかってことがやっぱり一番重要だと思いました。あとはまあ物量をどのぐらいだけ押し込んだ、まあ、入れたりとか引いたりとかってことが多分重要なので、でもまあかなりそれをうまくやっていただいたのですごくまあ僕としては大成功というか、あとリモートでも搬入できるんだなっていうのはちょっとまあ発見でしたね。
So working remotely is a first for me. I've never done that before, and I was definitely worried going into this, but especially because the main gallery is kind of a complicated shape. And we created multiple pathways for this exhibit, which was a first for me as well. And the edges of the pathways are the most important thing visually. So I put a lot of focus on that and making that look good. And also the overall number of hula hoops, how many is going to feel right, and that sort of thing was kind of an unknown. But I'm really pleased, and I think it's a huge success how we were able to bring this together. And it's thanks to you all at Japan House that it came together so beautifully. And it was also a discovery for me that I can work remotely and do an install from a remote location.
Well, we want to let you know that even though we haven't opened the main gallery to the public yet, we've had over 1,000 people coming in to see the entrance area, the front gallery. And that's just in it hasn't even been open for a week yet. So we are thrilled, and clearly a lot of people are interested in your work and very excited by it. We've seen lots of families and couples and groups of people coming into the gallery. And now that California is open, we know we're going to get a lot of people coming in to see your work. And we know that it will make them all feel very happy to see your installation. So do you have a message for the thousands of people who will be coming into the gallery and seeing your work over the summer?
そうですね。まず 今回ね、展覧会を作ってくれたジャパンハウスの皆さんにまずお礼が言いたいですね。一度も会ってないので、ずっとウェブ上でしか会ったことがなくて、なおかつずっと何ヶ月もやってきてね、会ったことがないけどこう信頼関係ができて、それによって作品までできたっていうのは、僕としてはすごく感動的なので、それにまずお礼が言いたいですね。で、あと、それでもちろん見に来る人たちにとってはもちろん、ね、まだ日本はね、なかなか難しいけど、アメリカは多少ね、オープンになってきてるので、その最初の展覧会が僕の作品で、それによってもう一回こうつながる、作品のリコネクティングなので、やっぱりもう一回何かこうつながりっていうものが重要だってことを再認識するっていうか、もちろんウェブでも、いつかね、皆さんにお会いしたいんだけど、でウェブでもやっぱりこう信頼関係ができて、また人とまた会って信頼関係ができるっていう関係性を、できれば作品でまた感じ取ってほしいなとは思いますけどね。
First of all, I really just want to say thank you to everyone at Japan House for making this happen. We've never met in person, but we've really built this trust over the last few months. And it was really moving just for me to have that experience. So thank you all at Japan House. And Japan isn't very open yet, but in the US, it's opening up much more. So I'm glad that that's happening. And this is sort of providing a place and a way for people to reconnect. And it's also an opportunity for me to reconnect with my art. So I would love to meet you all in person one day. And I hope that everyone can feel all of what I just described when they see my art.
Thank you, Kito-san. I really hope everybody gets to feel that very soon too. I have asked you all the questions I have, so I would love to let the audience ask you some questions. So I'm looking at some of the questions we have out there. One of the questions is, watching your video, clearly you don't just make installations using hula hoops. You also use other objects like mirrors, handheld mirrors. You also use umbrellas in some of your installations. So how do you choose these objects that you're going to repurpose into your installations?
なんか選ぶ基準っていうのは特には多分ないんですけど、ただやっぱり傾向としてはやっぱりこうつながった時にどう見えるかとか、やっぱり大量にあった時に違うものに見えてくる、アートに見えてくるような、ものを多分選んでるのと、あとは形ですよね。やっぱりどうしても丸、三角、四角みたいな、要するに結構ミニマルなというか決まった形を選んでるような気が自分ではしていて、あとは線的要素っていうのも多分重要なんだと思うんですけど、最近は本当にちょっと面というか色とこう四角かったりとかっていう面積的にちょっと大きなものを選ぶことが多いですよね。なんていうかな、その傘として傘を傘だと思って選んでないので、フラフープも多分フラフープだと思って選んでないんですよね。多分感覚としては。はい。
I don't really have a standard of how I choose these items. It's basically based on how do these items look when they're all connected together or when you have a large number of them together. And lately I've been choosing a lot of items that have bigger surface area, which has kind of been common, but I don't think of an umbrella as an umbrella. And the same with the hula hoop. I don't think of a hula hoop as a hula hoop. So that also, I think, plays into how I decide.
So it's more for the form.
色がやっぱ重要なんでしょうね。やっぱり絵画なので、そこは多分その絵の中にどういうものがはめ込むかっていうのは多分考えてるのかな。
Yeah, and I'm also, because of the painting, I think about, how to fit items into a space as well a lot.
This is a great question. Do you think of the forms that emerge from the repetitive process of adding hula hoops to each other to reflect organic or natural forms, for example, as if from plant life? So using these plastic hula hoops and connecting them together, are you kind of imitating nature in some way?
基本的にはあと多分自然に対抗して作るみたいなところが多分僕はずっとあって、オーガニックな形で何か自然に似せるっていうよりは自然と対抗、自然は大きすぎて対抗できないかもしれないけど、やっぱりそれに対してこう自分がどういうふうなまた全然違うものを見せれるかと思うんですよ。やっぱり自然は当然美しくて当たり前なんだけど、やっぱりこう人が作ったものもよりやっぱり美しいものだったりとか、何か考えさせるものであるものが多分アートだと思っていて、だからその形っていうのも何かの形を似せて作るってことはないですね。ただオーガニックな要するに有機的な形を多分常に作りたいとは思ってますね。ただそれが何かに似てるわけでは多分ないと思う。
I know that you can't really compete necessarily with nature, but in a sense, I'm kind of competing with nature because nature is able to create so much that is sort of more beautiful in many ways than what is man-made. And so I feel that humans can create beautiful things through art. And so that's kind of what I try to do. And so, yes, it is definitely going in the direction of creating something that looks organic and natural.
Now, another question is, color is such a big part of your art. This person is curious as to whether you've ever considered doing a single palette, for example, like all white hula hoops. I know the answer to that one, but I'm going to let you answer that.
フラフープの作品はもう作っていて、実は。その場合は空間を白ではなく、空間に全部の壁と床に布を貼ったんですよね、カラフルな。その上に白いフラフープでインスタレーションした作品はありますね。だから逆転させたというか、白い空間に色のあるフラフープではなくて、色のある空間に白いフラフープをインストールした作品はあります。
So the answer is yes, I actually have already. What I did in that case was I put a lot of colorful cloth on all the surfaces, the floor, the walls, the ceilings, and inverted sort of the color palette. So the color was coming from the surfaces and then the hula hoops were white.
And that's an amazing installation too. Does Kito-san consider his installation a sculpture object, or is it non-object based and more about the process?
自分自身はあんまり彫刻という意識はないんですよね。最初に少し話しましたけど、やっぱり絵画を学んでしまっていたので、そこからやっぱり離れることがなかなかできないので、やっぱりとはいっても絵画で収まりたくはないっていうのが多分スタートなんですよね。そこからの派生なので、やっぱり彫刻として作品を作ってはいなくて、インスタ、言葉としてはなかなかちょっと難しいんですけど、もちろんその過程も重要だし、やっぱり作ってる過程として、最後フィニッシュはどっかでしなきゃいけないんだけど、でも常に過程のようにも見えるし、作品が。だからそういうような状態に置いておくっていうのは、言われる通り重要なのかもしれないけど、彫刻ではないですね。じゃあ何なのかっていうとまた難しいところではありますけど。
I would say it's not a sculpture, and I would say that because I did painting for so long, I really wanted to get away from painting, which was a challenge, but I also didn't want to be limited by that sort of medium. And so it's really hard to express this with words, but the process is very important. And this art piece itself does look like a process, but it's not a sculpture. And so, the question becomes then, what is it? Well, I don't really know how to express that with words.
So a couple of people are asking about influences. All artists are in a way influenced by their predecessors. Which artists have influenced your work the most?
いっぱいいますけどね。いっぱいもちろんいるんだけど、あえて一人やっぱり挙げるんだったら田中敦子ですかね。やっぱり具体の田中敦子の作品がやっぱり僕は一番影響が強いかなと思ってますね。学生時代にやっぱり見た、20歳ぐらいかな、多分初めて見たんですけど、やっぱり最初に見た時の強烈なインパクトは今でも忘れないので、はい。
I would say there are many, but Atsuko Tanaka is one of the biggest influences on my work. I can still remember the impact that she had when I saw her work for the first time when I was 20 years old, and that's still fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm. And she's a Gutai artist from the 1960s, 70s.
そうですね。はい。特に最後は晩年、僕名古屋だったんですけど、名古屋のギャラリーでよく毎年発表されていて、何度かお会いしたこともあるんですけど、そういうのも多分すごい影響していて、はい。
She lived in her later years in Nagoya, and I live in Nagoya, so I was able to go to, she had galleries every year, and so I met her several times, and so there was that direct influence there as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next question is related to that. Are you interested in collaborating with another artist in the future? And if so, who would you like to collaborate with?
そうですね。もちろんできればね、今、妻もアーティストなので、妻とコラボレーションする作品を去年から始め、それこそコロナのあたりから始めたりとかしてますけどね、すごいグレートアーティストともちろんできればやりたいけど、はい、と思います。できれば違う国の人とやりたいですね。
Yes, the answer is I would love to. My wife is also an artist, and we've been collaborating together since the beginning of the pandemic and creating some work together. And I'd, of course, love to work with big name artists, especially artists that are overseas.
Mm-hmm. And another similar question is, are there any dream spaces Kito-san would like to fill with his hula hoop installations?
ニューヨークにやっぱりいたので、やっぱりモマかどっかでやりたいですね。大きな天井の高いような場所でやれれば面白いですよね。吹き抜けてるような。
I used to live in New York, so some place with really big spaces like MoMA or some place like that would be a really great place.
Tall, really high building, maybe, of the hula hoops coming down the side of a very tall skyscraper, perhaps.
なんかスカイスクレーパーの外側にこううわっとこうなんかくっついてるようなこともやったら面白いかもしれないですね。ただまあ風が大変かもしれない。
Yeah, I'd love to stick a whole bunch of hula hoops to the outside of a tall building. I think that would be great. It might be a little bit tricky with the wind, but I think that would be really cool.
That would be fun. We have a couple of people have asked, how do the exhibition spaces differ, the ones here in Japan House LA? So in the gallery and then outdoors at Westfield Century City. I know you haven't been there to see them physically, but you've seen them on Zoom. Can you explain what's different about them?
屋外は初めてですけど、やっぱりこうギャラリースペースじゃない場所では何度かやったことがあって、やっぱりそれはやっぱりこう雑多なものがあるというか、作品だけに集中できないスペースなんですよね。そうするとやっぱり作品がある程度強くないとみんな見てくれないんですよね。やっぱそこは毎回すごい苦心するし、考える、まあそれはボリュームだったりするのかもしれないけど、ボリュームだったりまあそのシェイプだったりするのかもしれないけど、やっぱりそこは毎回考えるとこですね。
The outdoor exhibition is different because in that sort of environment, it's harder for people to focus just on the art. So the art naturally has to be a little bit stronger or bolder. So I definitely thought about that in terms of volume and in terms of shape, and I had some special considerations there.
Perhaps the last question. Oh, actually, there are two more. To me, your installation is colorful and playful. What do you have in mind for your next installation?
次は、まあ、来年、まあ、日本ですけど、まあ、グループショー、展覧個展があるんで、まあ、そこも結構20メートルぐらい高い、なんか吹き抜けみたいな場所でちょっとまあ展覧会をやるんですけど、少しまあちょっと今考えてる途中なので何とも言えないんですけど、まあそれも線的な要素ですが、まあこう木の棒がぶら下がってる作品を作ろうと思っていて、ただまあカラフルな木の棒がただただぶら下がっているだけの作品なんですよ、大量に。まあちょっとまあそれが実現できれば面白いんですけど、まあちょっと場所とあとまあ危険なのかもしれない。ちょっといろいろ問題があるかもしれないんで、ちょっとまだわからないですけどね。ちょっと今そんなようなことを考えてますね。
So next year, I have an exhibition in Japan, and this one's going to be in a very tall space, about 20 meters. So what is that, like 60 feet, 80 feet, somewhere near there? And I'm hoping to use a lot of wooden poles, colorful wooden poles, just hanging down, just practically countless number of them hanging down, but it could be kind of dangerous. I'm not sure what sort of considerations need to be made. So I'm still sort of brainstorming that idea at the moment.
One last question. Do you have any memories of hula hoops from your childhood? If so, did that influence your artwork created with hula hoops at all?
いやー、本当に、まあもちろんフラフープはやったことありますし、なんかもちろん楽しくやった思い出は小さい頃ありますけど、でもたまにやるんですけど、最近全然できなくて、ちょっと悲しい思いをしますけど、それはそれで、でもまあ何かそれが影響してるとはあんま思ってはいませんけどね。その小さい頃の思い出が作品と絡んでるとはあんま思ってはいないですけどね。今できないことの方がなんかちょっと悔しいですね。
So not really. I have memories, of course, as a kid, hula hooping. And, lately, because I'm surrounded by hula hoops, I try it every once in a while, but I can't keep it going, which is very sad to me. So I don't think my memories from my childhood are really connected, but I'm mainly bummed out that I can't keep it going now.
Well, thank you for that. I have to say that I picked up one of the hula hoops during the installation and I tried it out. I hadn't done it for probably 10 years and I did it for a few seconds and I was very excited. So when I meet you, I will teach you how. So thank you, Kito-san. Thank you, David. I'm afraid it's time for us to wrap up now. So on behalf of everyone attending this webinar, I'd like to thank you both, to thank you, Kito-san, for a wonderful exhibition at Japan House LA and being with us today to celebrate its opening. And thank you to the audience for all your great questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to more. I think I covered most of them though. Reconnecting exhibition opens to the public tomorrow, June 16th. And so we look forward to seeing you there in person. For those of you who can't come and see the exhibition in person, we have a virtual tour on our website, japanhousela.com. And we also have several programs relating to the exhibition coming up, including a webinar on July 14th that connects Kito-san's hula hoop work with the lines, circles, and space in Zen Buddhism. And we will end the webinar with a trailer that features some images from this webinar. We encourage you all to stay up to date on all of our events by subscribing to the Japan House LA newsletter. And today, when you exit the program, please take a moment to fill out our survey to help us provide content that's relevant to your interests. Thank you all again for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Kengo Kito. And everybody enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe. Thank you so much.